My coworker would slam her drawer every time I took a call and said, "It's just how I work, deal with it." So I started conducting all my client meetings directly next to her desk using a Bluetooth speaker at 70% volume. After 3 days, she filed a noise complaint on herself. I work at a small insurance brokerage in Dayton, Ohio. We're in an open office space, a dozen desks in one big room, all shoved close enough that you can smell someone's lunch if they microwave it. I've been here for almost 5 years, and for the most part, it's fine. People mind their business. You get your calls done, do your paperwork, maybe chat a little at the coffee station. But then she got hired. Her name's Marcy, mid-30s, heavy perfume, loud in every possible way. She was hired as a claims liaison, which basically means she calls clients and chases down adjusters. I didn't think much of her at first, figured she'd either settle in or move on like a lot of people do. But on her second day, I was on a client call, halfway through explaining coverage changes, when she yanked her bottom desk drawer open so hard it rattled my coffee cup. Then she slammed it shut again. I paused, thinking maybe it was just bad timing. But then, during the same call, she did it 3 more times. Each slam was so sharp it made the cheap little metal divider between our desks vibrate. After the call, I leaned over and said, "Would you mind waiting until I'm done talking to clients before slamming your drawer like that? It's kind of loud." She smiled, and I swear it was the most fake, sugary smile I've ever seen, and said, "Oh, it's just how I work. Deal with it." I laughed a little, thinking maybe she was joking, but she turned back to her computer and started typing without another word. The next few days, I noticed a pattern. Every single time I started a call, she'd start slamming that drawer. Sometimes she'd open and close it 3, 4, 5 times in a row, even if she didn't need anything from it. It was like she waited for my headset mic to pick up my voice before starting. I went to our office manager, Gary, about it. He just shrugged and said, "She's new. Maybe she's just getting settled. Try to work around it." Work around it? I take calls all day. It's my job. There's no working around someone being deliberately disruptive. By the end of the second week, I was fuming. I was losing focus, having to repeat myself to clients, and my notes were a mess because I couldn't hear myself think. Then, one night, as I was driving home, I had a thought. If she wants to play the Just How I Work game, fine. But 2 can play. I went home, charged up my little portable Bluetooth speaker, and the next morning, I paired it to my work phone. That day, whenever I had a client meeting, I didn't take it at my desk. I'd grab the speaker, stroll over to the empty standing desk directly next to hers, set the speaker down, and run the call at 70% volume. I wasn't rude about it. I didn't say anything to her. I just conducted business like normal, except now every client's voice was loud, crisp, and filling her personal space. The first morning, she looked annoyed but didn't say anything. By the second day, she was sighing and making exaggerated faces. On the third day, she snapped. She marched over to Gary's office, slammed his door, ironic, and stayed in there for a good 15 minutes. I kept working. 10 minutes after she came out, Gary called me in. "She filed a noise complaint," he said, holding a paper, "about you and your calls." But he looked half confused, half amused. The way she worded it makes it sound like she's complaining about her own noise level. I think she realized she kind of set herself up. Apparently, she had written that excessively loud calls directly beside my workspace disrupt my focus and make it hard to do my job, and that no one should have to deal with unnecessary noise during work hours. Gary told me not to worry about it, and that he'd handle it. But from the way he smirked, I could tell he understood exactly what was going on. That afternoon, she didn't slam her drawer once. For a couple of days after Gary talked to her, Marcy was quiet. No drawer slamming. No exaggerated sighs. She kept her headphones in, typed away, and didn't say a word to me. Honestly, I thought maybe it was over. But I underestimated how petty she could be. The following Monday, I came in to find my desk chair missing. I thought maybe housekeeping had moved it for carpet cleaning or something. But when I checked the conference room, there it was, my exact chair, with Marcy sitting in it like she owned the place. She looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "Oh, they must have switched it. You can just grab one from the break area." The chair in the break area was one of those awful cheap ones with no lumbar support, and I have a bad lower back from a car accident years ago. After 2 hours in that thing, my back was screaming. I went to Gary again, but he just rolled his eyes and said, "Just swap them back when she's not using it." He's one of those managers who avoids any kind of confrontation if it's not about missing money. So that night, I swapped them back. The next morning, chair was gone again. This went on for a week, and it was getting under my skin. Every time I'd move it back, she'd steal it again, and she'd smirk while doing it. But then came the twist. I had a quarterly review with Gary in his office. And while I was in there, Marcy apparently decided to borrow my chair again. Except this time, she rolled it into the lobby while talking to one of our bigger corporate clients who happened to be visiting. I don't know what she said to him exactly, but later that afternoon, Gary called me back in. And now he wasn't smirking. "She's saying you've been harassing her," he told me flat out. "She claims you've been purposely making loud calls, taking her chair to mess with her, and following her around the office. She even implied you've been trying to intimidate her." I swear my stomach dropped. Harassment claims aren't something you mess around with, even false ones. "Gary, she's the one who's been." I started, but he cut me off. "I know. I've been here. I've seen it. But corporate HR got an email from her this morning, and now I have to loop them in." That meant an investigation, which meant every single thing I'd done, Bluetooth speaker included, was about to be scrutinized. That night, I barely slept. Not because I thought I'd get fired. I had proof she started this. But because I realized something. If she was willing to take it to HR and twist the story, this wasn't just petty office drama anymore. This was about to turn into a full-blown war that could affect my job, my reputation, and maybe even my career. I wasn't about to sit back and let her control the narrative. 2 days later, I got an email from corporate HR scheduling a fact-finding interview. That's their polite way of saying, "We're here to dig through your life and see if you're guilty of anything." They booked a private video call since the corporate office is up in Cleveland. When the meeting started, there were 2 HR reps on the screen. One did the talking. The other just took notes without saying a word. "Can you tell us about your interactions with Marcy since you started?" the first one asked. I told them everything. The drawer slamming, the fake smile, the deal with it comment, the way she stole my chair daily. I didn't even bring up the Bluetooth speaker at first. But then the note taker spoke up for the first time. "Did you conduct calls at a higher volume near her desk intentionally?" I took a breath. Yes, but only after she repeatedly slammed her desk drawer during my calls. After I asked her to stop, and she refused. It was a way to make my work possible without her disrupting it. They wrote that down. I could tell they weren't thrilled about the speaker part, but they didn't say it was against policy. Then came the kicker. They told me she had claimed I followed her around and hovered near her workstation to intimidate her. That's when I pulled up my ace. I'd been using a free app on my phone to track my step count and daily movement. It logged every time I'd gotten up from my desk, and for how long. I exported 2 weeks' worth of data showing I'd barely left my workstation except for lunch and the bathroom. I emailed it to them right there. The note taker smiled, not in a friendly way, but in that way that says we caught something. A few days later, HR came back with a follow-up request. They wanted to speak with other employees who sat near us. That's when things got interesting. Marcy had spent the past month annoying just about everyone in our little cluster. She played TikTok videos on her phone without headphones. She chewed ice so loud you could hear it across the room. She had loud, personal calls in the middle of the day. By the end of that week, at least 3 people had gone to HR separately to clarify that I hadn't done anything to her, but that she'd been making the whole area miserable. I started noticing little changes. She'd walk past the break room, and people would lower their voices. She'd walk into the kitchen, and someone would forget to hold the fridge door open for her. It wasn't open hostility, but it was cold. And the colder it got, the more desperate she started acting. On Thursday, I overheard her on the phone loudly, telling someone that she might need to file a restraining order because she didn't feel safe at work. I knew that was aimed at me. She wanted to rattle me. But here's the thing about trying to play the victim when you've been the aggressor. The more you push the story, the more cracks start to show. What she didn't know was that HR had quietly asked IT to pull up her computer activity for the past few weeks. And when IT starts digging, they tend to find everything. The thing about working in our office is that people forget. IT logs everything. Every site you visit, every email you send, every instant message you think is private. And when HR asks them to pull your activity, they don't just look for the thing they were told about. They look at the whole picture. I didn't know exactly what they were after, but I found out a few days later. I was at my desk finishing up a claim file when Gary came over looking almost giddy. He leaned down and whispered, Stay out of this one, but I think you're going to enjoy it." Then he walked off. An hour later, HR was in the office, not just on a video call, in person. They took Marcy into the small conference room and shut the door. Through the thin walls, I could hear muffled voices. Hers got louder and sharper, until finally she just stopped. She came out 20 minutes later, pale and tight-lipped, holding her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She went straight to her desk, yanked open that cursed drawer, stuffed a few things into her bag, and left for the day. Word travels fast in a small office. By lunch, I'd heard the gist. IT had found that during work hours, she'd been sending emails to a friend about me, calling me names, bragging about how she was teaching me a lesson, and even admitting to slamming her drawer just to mess with him. But that wasn't all. Apparently, she'd also been streaming videos and shopping online for hours each day, something that violates our internet use policy. The real nail in the coffin, though, was an email chain where she told a former coworker from another job that she might need to create some drama to get me out of the picture. She never outright said she'd lie, but it was close enough that HR couldn't ignore it. The official line from corporate was that she'd been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Around here, that's code for we're deciding whether to fire you or let you resign quietly. For a week, her desk sat empty. People got louder, happier. I took my calls at my own desk again. The tension that had been choking the place just lifted. Then the day before she was supposed to have her final HR meeting, she came back, not for work, but to collect her things. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at anyone. She just packed her boxes, one drawer slam at a time, and rolled them out. The second she was gone, someone from a claims team leaned over and whispered, "You know, she's been telling people you ruined her life, right?" I just smiled, because if she thought this was over, she had no idea what was coming. For a few weeks after she left, things were peaceful. I almost forgot what it felt like to not have someone deliberately sabotaging my day. But then the little signs started popping up. First was the Facebook message. It came from some guy I didn't know, asking why I got an innocent woman fired. He said he was a friend of Marcy's and that she told him I had bullied her out of a job. I ignored it. Then 2 days later, one of my longtime clients called me and said, "Hey, some lady called here saying she used to work with you and that you're unprofessional." She didn't give her name, but I'm guessing it's the same person. That's when I knew she wasn't going to let this die. I did some digging, nothing invasive, just basic Google and public Facebook. Sure enough, she'd been making vague posts about a toxic coworker who ruined her career. Her friends were commenting things like, "You should sue him, and don't let him get away with it." Then one afternoon, Gary called me into his office again. He just got a call from corporate. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint about me harassing women at work. Corporate wanted to know if we'd had any new hires recently. We hadn't. Gary looked at me and said, "I'm 99% sure it's her." That was my breaking point. She'd already tried to paint me as some kind of workplace bully, gotten caught lying, and still wasn't done. Now she was trying to damage my reputation with clients and my employer from the outside. So I started collecting things. Screenshots of her public posts, the email from my client saying she called them, the Facebook message from her friend, even a few LinkedIn updates where she implied she'd been forced out by malicious coworkers. I didn't post anything. I didn't confront her. I just kept stacking the deck. And then came the moment I didn't plan for. She applied for a job at another local brokerage, one where I had a few good friends working in their claims department. I didn't have to say a word. One of them texted me a screenshot from her application, asking, "This the same Marcy who got canned from your place?" I replied, "Yep, got proof if you need it." That proof ended up in the hands of their hiring manager before her second interview. She didn't get the job, and when she found out, she made the mistake of sending me a long, furious message accusing me of blackballing her from the industry. She even threatened to take legal action. What she didn't know, threatening me in writing was going to make the final stage of my revenge that much easier to justify. Her message was long and all over the place. She accused me of costing her at least 2 jobs, claimed I'd manipulated HR to get her fired, and ended it with, "You haven't seen the last of me. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are." I didn't reply. I didn't even acknowledge it. Instead, I saved the whole thing as a PDF and backed it up in 3 different places. At this point, I had a thick little file, Screenshots of her public Facebook rants the message, from her friend the email, from my client the LinkedIn post, the threat she sent me directly, and from the HR case her own emails bragging about slamming her drawer to mess with me. I wasn't just holding ammo, I had a whole arsenal. For a couple of weeks, things were quiet. I thought maybe she'd finally realize she was only digging her own hole deeper. But then, like clockwork, she tried one more stunt. I got a call from a vendor we work with regularly, a printer who handles our promotional materials. He said a woman had called pretending to be from our company, asking for internal files about me so she could verify a complaint. Thankfully, the vendor is a personal friend of mine outside of work. He played along just long enough to get her to give a fake name and a callback number. The callback number was still tied to her personal cell. That was it. She'd crossed into territory she couldn't talk her way out of. Pretending to represent our business to get information about me wasn't just petty. It was legally dangerous for her. I went straight to Gary. We brought in corporate HR. And this time, they didn't just log the incident. They contacted the company's legal department. From that moment, the tone changed completely. This wasn't office drama anymore. This was now a documented case of attempted impersonation tied to someone who had already been caught lying and harassing. And because she'd put so much of it in writing, I knew that whatever was coming next was going to be bad for her. The final move was about to start. Corporate's legal team didn't waste time. They had all my documentation, the IT findings from before, and now the vendor statement with her callback number. 2 days later, they sent her a formal cease and desist letter by certified mail. It spelled out exactly what she had done: harassment, impersonation, and interference with business relationships, and told her if she contacted me, my clients, or anyone in our company again, they'd pursue legal action. She signed for it. I know because I saw the delivery confirmation myself. A week passed. No word from her. I figured maybe the letter had finally scared her straight. Then late one night, a coworker texted me a screenshot from Facebook. Marcy had posted one of her long self-pitying rants, but this time, she'd named me directly, said I was a vindictive snake who used corporate power to ruin a woman's livelihood. That was all I needed. The next morning, I sent the screenshot to corporate's legal department. Within 24 hours, they filed for a restraining order against her on behalf of the company and me personally. It included a provision that barred her from making any public statements about me, my employer, or any of our clients. The court granted it. Now, it wasn't just HR she had to worry about, it was the law. If she so much as mentioned me again in public, she'd be in violation. Word spread fast. The brokerage she'd applied to before, they blacklisted her from future openings. Another firm in town where she had friends quietly removed her from their candidate pool. She'd gone from being between jobs to being effectively shut out of the industry. The real kicker came about a month later, when I found out she'd taken a job at a call center across town, the kind of place that tracks every bathroom break. She lasted less than 2 weeks. Someone there found her old Facebook posts and recognized my name. That was enough for management to start reviewing her fit for the company, which was their polite way of saying don't get too comfortable. She left Dayton not long after. I heard she moved in with a relative somewhere in Indiana. I haven't seen her or heard from her since. And legally, she can't say my name without risking court trouble. I still have the file. Every screenshot, every email, every petty little piece of proof. Not because I plan to use it, but because I want to remember exactly how far someone will go when they think they can push you around, and how far I want to make sure she could never do it again. In the end, she lost her job, her reputation, her industry connections, and even her ability to spin her side of the story publicly. All because she couldn't stop slamming a drawer. That sound doesn't bother me anymore, because now I know the person who made it won't be slamming anything in my direction ever again.